There's an ancestral hall in our village that holds a painting of a woman named Jan, but everyone avoids that painting. For some reason, any woman the village drags in from outside ends up mute. One day the village head went hunting with a pair of men and brought back a woman. The men in the village all rushed toward the head's house. Before we even reached the door, the woman's miserable cries came from inside. I hurried on, excited. After all, every woman in our village was mute, thinking about how quiet my wives were in bed. I wanted to take this captured woman for myself. I pushed through the crowd and squeezed to the front. The village head called. This time her voice was loud. The woman on the ground was naked and covered in wounds. I crouched and reached out. Before I could touch her, she started screaming in terror. I nodded with satisfaction. She wasn't mute. I took out everything I had and threw it at the village head, then led the woman home. The men who had been watching followed behind me. "Uguzi, when did you go hunting?" "I want to be the first," they said, anxious not to be late in case the woman turned mute. I'd spent a lot to buy her. I'd at least enjoy her first. There's a tacit thing in our village: women are prey. If you don't hunt, you go out and steal women. If you hunt, you buy them. Maybe I can earn a little pocket money. Boss, please let me go. If you want money, my family will pay you a lot if you let me leave. This woman's speaking voice was very pleasant. If only I knew how long that voice would last. Strange as it is, I heard that the earlier women in the village, including the purchased ones, could speak. But then something happened at some village taboo, and the women who came to live here all became mute. The village head once called in a shaman to look into it. The shaman was an old woman, wart-covered with a mysterious air, and she was mute too. She made a lot of dramatic gestures, but in the end she couldn't figure it out. The village head hurried to chase her away when he saw she was no help. She settled at the west end of the village and didn't leave. The woman looked at me with a wronged, pleading expression that made me itch all over. I reached out and touched her hair. "Don't be afraid. I'm not a bad man. What's your name?" "Lengxiang. I'm Lengxiang, brother. Please let me go." Ancient people thought pretty names sounded soft. This one smelled of fragrance. I took Lengxiang home and slammed the door behind us. Lengxiang was truly as her name suggested. I felt like I was back at the beginning. I lingered over her. Lengxiang cried until her throat was hoarse. I was wildly excited, unable to stop. In the middle of my climax, someone knocked on the door. I didn't bother answering. The knocking kept going. I grabbed a water cup from the bedside table and threw it. At a moment like this, I didn't want anyone to come. We went at it from day into deep night. The person on the bed had no strength left to resist. I finally slid off the bed and opened the door. My father and my first wife, Hehua, were standing outside. Obviously, it had been my father knocking earlier. I told Hehua to watch the woman in the room, then followed my father out. My father pulled out 100 tobacco leaves, put them in his pipe and bit down on it. "Did you go hunting again today?" he asked. "Yeah, worked all day. Maybe another time you can try it too." My father blew a plume of smoke at me. "You bastard, stop sinning. You'll get your comeuppance sooner or later." I dodged the smoke. "Don't worry, old man. I've bought quite a few. It's fine." My father sighed again. "God is busy," he said. "No, my brother's situation wasn't a secret in our village. Back when I was small and worthless, gossip from every household painted the outline. My brother was ugly and short. He could barely get married. He kept picking on the village women because they were mute. Our mother paid a matchmaker to bring pictures of girls. There were many, but my brother rejected them all. Eventually, my mother gave up. Who would have thought my brother would bring in a captured woman from outside, a woman named Fang Fang? Fang Fang was wild. Even after my brother locked her up for a month, she kept trying to escape. My mother chained her with iron and watched her constantly until Fang Fang got pregnant. They took the chain away then. My brother and Fang Fang became intimate. They curled up together all day. Someone cursed loudly and told the village head to stir up the neighbors to help search. Fang Fang was pregnant. Our mountain roads were rough. She couldn't have gotten far. Sure enough, Fang Fang didn't leave. She hid in the village's ancestral hall. In our ancestral hall was a paper painting. The villagers were inexplicably afraid of it, so few people ever came. The hall was cold and eerie. Wang Fang stood unkempt before the offering table, looking like a dead woman come to life. My brother kicked her a few times. "Stupid bitch, thinking of running away from our house? I'll beat you to death." Lots of people watched the show, but nobody intervened. They just stood to the side while Fang Fang writhed on the ground. Even the daughter-in-law with the big dog, she was mute. One man in the crowd sneered, "Everyone knows my brother's ugly. He's picky. He doesn't like muteness." My brother snapped back, staring at the woman on the floor like a flame had been struck. Then, as if to prove something, he kicked her harder. Fang Fang still wouldn't speak. "Has your wife touched that paper painting?" The villagers followed the village head's gaze and looked behind the altar. The painting's subject's mouth was bright red, as if freshly drinking blood. People stared in disbelief. The hall went terrifyingly silent. My brother dragged Fang Fang home by her hair. That night, who knows what Fang Fang went through. The next day, her unborn child was lost. Those who had been watching expected my brother to have beaten her to death, but he'd changed. He spoke gently and never hit her again. Fang Fang stopped trying to run and no longer fought. She and my brother grew close. My mother boasted to outsiders that she'd soon have grandchildren. The villagers, having lost their show, rolled their eyes and went home. Not long after, trouble returned to our house. My mother's wish evaporated. Fang Fang didn't remain pregnant. My brother fell into a stupor and couldn't wake. He was marked with countless small cuts all over his body, one after another, but they were shallow, some not even bleeding. The cuts weren't life-threatening, but he wouldn't wake. He breathed faintly, barely alive. My mother wanted to question Fang Fang, but Fang Fang had vanished as if she'd disappeared into thin air, neither seen alive nor dead. My mother went to the village head begging for help. The village head, worn down, told her to go to the ancestral hall and pray. After she went, my mother disappeared too, just like Fang Fang. With such big trouble at home, a tall mountain man, 5 or 6 men from out carrying a round plate, followed my father to the ancestral hall. It was odd. The hall didn't hold the usual ancestral tablets or Buddha images. There was only a paper painting, and it seemed to change. People were startled and leaned in to look. Sure enough, originally, there had been only one young woman in the painting. Now there was another, an older plump woman in her 50s, with an iron chain around her neck, as if trying to break free but held fast. "So where's Fang Fang?" they asked. Fang Fang had gone missing, but she didn't appear in the painting. No one could take the woman off the paper. My father sighed and told us to go home. My brother's condition had worsened. He looked drained of yang energy and had lost half his blood. My father's eyes widened. Such small wounds, where could so much blood have gone? There were no visible bleeding wounds in bed. How could so much blood be lost? If something had been sucking at the wounds. My father put out some money to ask the man with the round plate for help. "Your family's things are sealed to let your son die in peace. Leave him here. He's been drained to nothing. Next life he won't even be born." The man sounded skilled. That night my brother died. He held the round plate in his hands and bragged that he had taken Fang Fang. The man left the village with my father's money, taking Fang Fang's vengeful spirit away. I finished smoking my tobacco leaf, went back to my room, and Hehua and the others stood guard. My bought woman hadn't woken. My body, just cooling down, slowly revived when I saw him leave. My purchased women totaled a dozen or so. Then I hurriedly took off my shoes and climbed on the bed. Leng Zhang was different from our mountain women. Her skin was soft and yielding. My hands couldn't stop exploring her. Maybe I was too rough. Leng Zhang frowned and made a sound. Like a fuse, I ignited and sat up, ready to get closer. But then a sharp pain hit my hand, like being cut by a knife. I turned on the light and saw a small scratch on my hand, shallow and not bleeding. I wondered if someone had put a blade on my bed. Leng Zhang didn't wake, so the only people who could have come in were my first wife and Hua. Damn it, those bitches, thinking they'd played jealous tricks on me. He cried out, "Everyone in!" A moment later, the whole room filled with the women I'd bought. Hehua stood at the front. I kicked Hehua down. She fell to the floor. The other women shrank back in fear. I put on my shoes, slapped Hehua's face a few times. She covered her mouth and shook her head, tears falling. "Do you know why I hit you?" The whole room's full of mute women. I didn't expect you to answer me. I lectured them myself. You're all things I bought. Don't think about her ruining me. Whoever I like, whoever I favor, no one's allowed to object. The women nodded. I kicked someone again. The women on the ground tried to get up but were pulled out. Arya, wait. Clean up my bedding. See what's stabbing me. Arya nodded, carefully avoiding the chest, and searched on the bed. I smoked and went to the backyard to sleep. By morning, Arya still hadn't found the weapon. I grew irritated. Ehwa still knelt outside the door. I grabbed a fire poker and left. Aguzi, are you not next in line? The other men swaggered over. There is still I haven't had my fill. I kicked at the kneeling women. Today, Ehwa will go with me. I kicked Ehwa out. Screams and low roars came from the small rooms. My pulse rose. I turned back toward Leng Xiang's house. Leng Yang had woken and tucked herself under the quilt, only a pair of watery eyes visible. Hungry? I asked. She nodded. I took 2 big steamed buns and put them before her. When she reached for them, I laughed and stopped her. I'll feed you. I leaned in to feed her. Someone touched me with their finger. I tried to open my eyes, but I couldn't. I panicked. Waking up was that hard and took all my strength. Dawn crowed and I barely managed to open my eyes. Arya knelt beside my bed with a large medicinal soup that had gone cold. I pushed up but nearly fell. Arya steadied me. What's wrong with me? I tried to speak but nothing came out. I pushed him aside and went to wash my face. Ah, it hurts. Cold water splashed. The pain made me scream. I grabbed a mirror. My face was drawn and tired, but I noticed tiny dents, pockmarks, not bleeding. When I pressed them, they stung. These weren't cuts from a knife. If they had been cuts, there should have been blood. I wrote a few notices. Leng Xiang can speak. First come, first served. I had Ehwa go door to door. In a short while, there was a line at my door, all the men of the village waiting for Leng Xiang. I bowed and apologized. Brothers, since I got paid, I'll make sure you're satisfied. See, Shangsang is tired from a day. Her voice is a bit small. I'm being fair. Those words hit the men. None protested. Tell everyone to come early tomorrow. I nodded. Business must go on. The men left one after another. I walked into Leng Xiang's little room. The person on the bed had been abused until she was barely alive. Her clothes were in tatters all over the floor. I pulled at Leng Xiang. Xiang, get up and eat. No, don't touch me. That answer triggered my lust and I stripped. Leng Xiang's resistance was half-hearted. She rode up onto me and smiled, lips curved. Her body made a rustling sound that pierced my chest. She touched my face. My niece Leng Xiang suddenly had weight. Sucking my blood made her expand. Before she reached her normal form, I had been drained dry. I felt myself turning into a skeleton as she took my blood. I flailed and tried to breathe, but outside dawn had already come. It was only a dream and it lasted so long. I patted my chest, breathed and got out of bed. In the yard, a queue had already formed, men waiting to enter Leng Xiang's room. I casually asked, how was it? Comfortable? Wang Daha grinned. Not yet my turn. The ones who felt it yesterday haven't come back, I wondered. Those who tasted Leng Xiang should be coming back for more, right? I could not understand it. I left for Little Hei's house. Little Hei had paid the most yesterday and was first in line. Before I reached his door, I heard faint cries. Little Hei looked surprised to see me. Aguzi, why are you here? Shouldn't you be busy with your own business? I grabbed his hand. Did anything weird happen after you slept with Leng Xiang? I feel odd. Little Hei cocked his head. Not really. Your girl was wild. I felt dizzy after one round. He laughed off my question. My face turned ashen. It turned out everyone who had been with Leng Xiang had the same symptoms. I left in a hurry, visiting other men who'd been in her bed. Without exception, they were all the same. Leng Xiang turned in my mind from a fragrant beauty to a death omen. It was a big problem. I didn't get home until the pile of cigarette butts at the gate had grown and the moon had climbed the mountain. My house was empty and eerily quiet. I went to my room in the backyard and fell on the bed. Ah, you pressed me, I thought. Leng Xiang's pleasant voice in the night felt chilling. I trembled, forgetting to stand, and let Leng Xiang climb on top of me. The pain covered my whole body again. She kissed my neck, supple as jade. Get off me! What are you? I used my throat to call out. but only an old, weak groan came out. That voice wasn't mine. I was only in my early 40s. Why did I sound that old? Panicked, I ran for a mirror. The reflection made me gasp. I looked past 50, bloodless, sickly. I thought of my brother. Hadn't he been drained of blood and yang? Would I be next? This had to be retribution. Erguzi! Irya called. Early morning, with everyone in a dazed state, Irya asked, "Why are you so ghostly?" I shook my head. "It's nothing. What are you here for?" "Why pretend? We paid to enjoy Ling Xiang." I was pale, the one who'd mixed most with Ling Xiang, bearing the worst effect. The other men just complained that the bed was unclean. They'd overindulged. I was mute with frustrations, unable to complain. Ling Xiang still didn't show her true colors and remained in the small room. I couldn't afford to ruin my business. Day after day, men went to my house for Ling Xiang. It wasn't until I heard a woman's voice in the room that I went out. The village head had earlier hired a shaman who lived at the West End. I ran to her place without thinking. At first, the villagers blamed the village head for hiring an unreliable charlatan, but I was anxious. My father had once hired a Taoist who seemed to have some skill. At least he'd dealt with Fang Fang. The seer they'd hired back then had died. The woman the village head now brought in was supposed to be the Taoist's successor. I hoped she could save me. Her courtyard wall was low. I could see its yard by stepping on tiptoe. I knocked a long time, but no one answered. I was about to kick the door when it opened from the inside. She looked more like a ghost. The shaman made hand signs. "Erguzi, why are you here?" Because most village women were mute, we used gestures, and I could understand her. We'd met only a few times, but she still remembered me. I bowed. "Shaman, please save me. There's something in my house." The shaman's scarred face was eerie and dry like old skin. Her hands moved more lively. She listened as I dumped out everything I'd seen the last few days. She nodded. "This is easy. Let that woman come to my house at night," I gaped. "I'm afraid of her?" The shaman patted my shoulder. "Don't be. As long as you don't expose her, she'll always obey you. She'll always think she's human. Whether she's human or ghost, you won't be able to fix it. Just do what I say." She closed the door and left me standing there puzzled. Ling Xiang really would obey me, as long as I didn't let her know she was a ghost. I couldn't deal with her otherwise. I steeled myself and followed the shaman's instructions. Things seemed to have a lead. I wasn't so panicked anymore. I sauntered home. The small rooms were full of sounds, Ling Xiang's enticing cries, but I no longer had any appetite. This was an old demon that replenished its yin with sex. I called to Irya. "Irya," I sat coldly, irritated that I had little strength. I smoked one after another in the courtyard. When night fell and Ling Xiang's room quieted, I called my wives and we went in. The woman lay there, soft and innocent. I hid behind Heihua and mustered my courage to call, "Xiang Xiang." Ling Xiang made a sound and looked at me seductively. I forced a stiff smile. "Xiang Xiang, you're officially my wife now." In our village, new brides had to go to the shaman at the West End to pray for couples' harmony. Ling Xiang stared at me. I relaxed and told Heihua to lead her to the shaman. Ling Xiang gave me a meaningful look but didn't refuse. I walked out of the room quietly, praying the shaman's ritual would work and end this nightmare. Tonight passed slowly. I stood at the gate waiting. Ling Xiang didn't return that night. The shaman proved capable. I wouldn't have to worry anymore. Then Ling Xiang reappeared at the gate. I was too scared to move. "Erguzi, help me." She reached out to me. I stepped back, fainted. I revealed her identity to her and made her come to me every night. Every night I profited. It was too troublesome, but Ling Xiang could be brought out and the money was enough. I fished some change from my pocket and handed it to the shaman. She nodded and left quickly. Strange. I felt like the shaman had changed. I looked back down at the woman lying unconscious on the ground. This female spirit couldn't harm people. So what had I been afraid of? I tried to lift her to my room but found I had no strength. I couldn't move her after a few tries. Angry, I started pulling off her clothes on the spot, took off my pants and pounced. I decided that Heihua should prepare more tonic soups tomorrow. After I had my way, Ling Xiang's color improved and she woke that night. I kept the shaman's instruction in mind. Do not reveal to her that she is a ghost. Sang, did you go to the shaman? From now on, you're my wife, right? For our future happiness? She answered me. I drank 3 bowls of tonic soup and felt odd. Typically, many men would line up to see Leng Xiang. Today, there was no one. I was suspicious and stepped outside to look. I ran into Little Hai and the others. Little Hai clutched his chest and stepped back. When did you get so weak? I scoffed. Little Hai, realizing something was odd, laughed and then awkwardly smiled. Don't be mad. I think there's something sharp in her bed. I felt my legs go weak. Everyone who had been with Leng Xiang complained of the same stabbing pains. I counted my money, and the village head came over, stern-faced. I shoved the money into my pocket and put on a pleasant face. What brings you here? I asked. The village head limped down and said, all the men who visited your house are half dead and can't wake up. What on earth is happening? I was stunned. How could it be so serious? The shaman said, I promised to have the shaman take care of her. The village head accepted the money and his face softened. He left with his stick. I put on a coat and followed him out to beg the shaman to take care of it. The night had no moon, and I groped my way to the shaman's place. As before, the gate was shut tight. I pounded and heard noises inside. I slowed, not wanting to disturb her ritual. And like the murk outside, the shaman's lamp shone bright through the slightly open door. I was so scared I collapsed to the ground.